more collaboratively. Yeah, more collaboratively. So it was amazing. We had an incredible turnout. We had an amazing response. And I think that's like definitely the highlight. It was really great. And honestly, our talk was like a half an hour. We delivered what we delivered in a half an hour. So.
No, thanks for mentioning that. It was a ton of fun for me as well, and to play with you and Amy. And I saw the email this morning from Pam Carlson, who was really set it up. And she said, I was hoping she left out one thing in her email. She said it was a highlight of the 2 days. I was hoping it would be the highlight.
Oh, that's funny. I read it as the highlight. I didn't even see that. So.
Yeah, I would rather have read it as the highlight, but it was a highlight. Yes.
I'm sure it was the highlight. There's not a doubt in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for that upbeat.
Thank you. There was a couple of really good speakers that were, and so here's the thing. It's an industry specific event. So, there was another woman named Vicki Kind who is an ethicist, and she talked about, the ethics of end-of-life care and working with the elderly. So, there were some compelling folks, but, what we offered was very unique. And so I appreciate it. It was great, and we got paid for it. And, so it's very, very cool. I want more of that.
Yeah, it was a ton of fun and great to connect with the people. And when you mentioned Vicki Kind, Vanessa, I love some of the things she did. She had the statistics on, as Vanessa said, end of life, how it was. And one of the examples was, would a physician choose to get CPR at the end of their life? Not related to a heart attack or a heart condition, but something else. And most of them said no, thank you, because it typically doesn't work. And she did the example of she was giving the compressions and doing staying alive, singing the song Staying Alive. I stay alive. And so she did that out, and then she said, it's really another one bites the dust.
Man.
And so using even that kind of gallows type humor but examples and getting people to laugh along with this very serious subject, I thought she did a phenomenal job of it.
Yeah. And you guys, she wasn't a boisterous speaker. She wasn't, she didn't have a strong projection in her voice. When we met her, I kind of thought she was a bit, even dowdy, but when she got up there and started speaking, it's just, she spoke with clarity. She knew her topic really well. She was very, very funny. She was charming, but it was not in a super assertive, even definitely not in an aggressive way. So I think that sometimes, especially for women, might feel they have to get up on stage and just kind of push themselves out there. This is a woman who's very much more feminine and even soft. But she was such a good speaker, and just an encouragement that we don't have to be different than we are. She just knew her stuff. She used humor, and she was very prepared, and she was likable. She was very charming and smiled, and so it was really cool to see that.
Yeah, it was great to experience her. And then the first opening keynote speaker was, I think she was a former top secretary of something, Health and Human Services or something like that. And she was very knowledgeable, incredibly nuanced about how to go at things. Wasn't exciting as a speaker, but her knowledge was incredible.
Yeah, she really was. She had a lot of information.
Yeah. Well, it looks like the whole crew's here right now. Thank you all for showing up. Just a super short share if anyone has it. Otherwise, let's jump into some exercises and then we'll play with some maybe coaching on the speaking journey. Jackie, I know, has some questions, but we'll actually talk about some of those as we go. So it looks like Patricia would like to say something. Yes.
Yeah, I just have a short share to catch you up. What I did is I presented the speech on creating your reality. It's an inside job to my Toastmasters last Wednesday, and it bombed so badly. It was really, I mean, it was like the worst, the worst. It was kind of like in the Deepak Chopra camp, except I was on television when I fucked that up. So anyway, it was good because I had veteran Toastmasters there that have been in clubs for like 40 years, and they were so great. I got such great feedback. So the contest was Saturday. This was Wednesday night. 48 hours, I reworked the entire speech, and I started with my story of the Chubettes, you know, the little girl, and it was good. I did well. I mean, I practiced in front of the mirror incessantly. I taped up my writing in the mirror, but I didn't memorize it. And I came in second. I didn't win, but you know, I really, it wasn't about winning. It was about really getting the message out there, and I got a lot of good feedback from people after. So anyway, I just wanted to fill you in on that. And I'm also doing Confessions of a Perfectionist at the end of the month and then the beginning of April as well for paid gigs actually, but they're like, you know, at the yoga center and stuff like that.
All right.
Hey, congratulations.
Yeah. That's awesome. Great job putting yourself out there and experiencing that and taking the feedback and improving it.
It was.
Say that again?
I said it was very hard. You know, I went the last of 5 speakers, and it's like my mind went blank every other sentence.
In the contest?
No, on Wednesday night. No,
before the contest. Okay, yeah.
No, the contest, I did well in the contest, yeah.
Okay, good. And being comfortable enough in yourself to be able to handle that is a key to this, because there are going to be times when you're not on the top of your game. It's, I mean, today even reminds me a little bit of that. And I go, why did the one event for Vistage not go as well, the last one, as the ones before? And partly, again, I played basketball yesterday really vigorously. And I think I get dehydrated. I have trouble sleeping. I wake up not feeling as sharp like I feel at the moment. and so I didn't sleep a lot last night. Because of that, it's hard to play at the top of your game.
Mm-hmm.
And you lost an hour of sleep on top of all that.
I know. I almost put out. I said, I'm not going to do it. I almost put out, do you want to meet at 9 or 10? Bobby gave me, I was kind of, part of me going, because I wanted to. Part of it's a risky move. So let's jump into something that I noticed myself doing as well, that Jackie talked about, ahs and ums.
But also,
can I give you real quick before we get into the ahs and the ums, just how happy I am that I found an open mic speaking group where I don't have to go and deliver a specific type of speech, you know, because that's where I am in the rotation with Toastmasters. So I'm really, really excited that I found this group. And I think the really awesome news for me is I might end up being able to be a member at like a mastermind level with this group, because I was smart enough to write this into my corporate business plan. And as long as I get approval from my manager, I think I'm going to be able to get them to pay the $97 a month to be involved with these guys. And if not, I'm willing to pay that. Don't get me wrong. But it'd be nice if I didn't have to, and I was able to get them to do that because I wrote it into my development plan. So we'll see what happens. But I gave my commit, you'll figure it out speech. And I didn't practice, it's just tough. I just delivered it just the way it came out. And the feedback that I got was incredible. And of course I shared the audio with you, Chris, and I feel really, really comfortable that I've got a great platform to move forward from in just being my authentic self and just allowing whatever message is emerging from me to come out. Yes, I can have a structured plan about how I intend to move through my stories with connectors, but I don't need to try to practice this to get it perfect, because if I just trust in myself and my ability to deliver my message, my story will just come through. and it'll be believable, it'll be authentic, it'll be moving, and it'll be powerful. And that's what I want to do.
That's great. And what I'd say to it too is Toastmasters is an open mic night, day, morning. And some groups it is not, because they have maybe 40 or 50 members and you have to sign up 3 weeks in advance, even just to get a speaking slot, or maybe even 5 weeks in advance to get a speaking slot. So some Toastmaster groups are not. Those are the real successful ones in that way. The open mic ones are the ones that are struggling, that have 15 or less members, that 5 members are showing up, where you can be Toastmaster at one meeting, as well as general evaluator, as well as giving a speech, maybe as well as evaluating your own speech, and as well as doing a second speech that you just made up on the spot. And that gives you an incredible opportunity if you want. Yeah. Most of the Toastmaster clubs that are really successful, there are many out there, but most of them are struggling to a degree where you could speak almost every week at something. And I would,
now that I've stated that, my intention is to find as many Toastmasters groups that I connect with as well. So it's not just one avenue, it's multiple avenues.
Right.
So,
yeah.
You know, I've been to 4 Toastmasters clubs, and I haven't really joined from this perspective of pathways and going into the manual and selecting the speeches and all of that. I've just been giving speeches, whatever speeches I want to give, most of them related to my mastermind work. So no one is telling me I have to follow the pathways. I can speak anything I want. And as long as I have 6 speeches under my belt, I was eligible for the contest. Of course, I've had a lot more than that. So all 4 of my clubs, they're all, you know, one of them is 20 people, and then down from there, the other 4 clubs, they're not huge, gigantic clubs. So.
Speaking of Toastmasters, sorry, go ahead, Chris.
No, you go ahead, Jackie.
I was just going to say, on Monday, I gave my first speech at the new Toastmasters. It was a redo speech, so I had Tyrion with me, and I sent the video to Chris, and I wish the video would have turned out better. It made a scraping sound as he moved the video, but it was magical. It was the best time I have had giving a speech, and it reminded me just how much I love it. And there's something extra special that happens. I may have practiced a ton, but when I have an audience there with me, there's just something different and something special about it, where I don't know, just to have the audience in the palm of my hand and enjoying, and that eager look in their eyes of what's she gonna say next. And I won Speaker of the Week, and the other speaker was a very distinguished DTM who basically wins all the contests that he enters. So that was a huge, exciting thing for me. And the other thing that I did last week is I really appropriated that Queen of the Half-Ass thing that you mentioned from your friend Vanessa, and I got the new cuts for my reel back to Eric. So that has been hanging over my head for 3 months. And I think maybe, thank you, I was so excited, and just to get it done. And I think Monday's speech was a reminder of how much I love doing this and how much this is what I want to be doing.
That's wonderful. And thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
Getting up to speak, if you want to be a speaker, is what you need to do.
Shocker.
Because it brings up things like that, and it brings up things like Patricia shared earlier, that if you really are committed to it, as Bobby shared earlier, if you make that commitment, if you get up and speak, you will able to take the feedback and make it better. And you will just get better and better and better. And we sell ourselves as speakers. This is why this is so crucial. Yes, Patricia.
Yeah. Yes. And, you know, I wanted to say that one of the veteran TM people that were there was from another town, Ventura, south of me. And she came up to me after, and she said her comments were lion-hearted. You know, she just thought I was so incredibly brave to take on this subject and to go through what I went through, which was essentially freezing every other sentence. But you know what? She invited me to speak at Unity in Ventura.
Whoa.
So out of that
Congratulations.
complete mess came a speaking gig. And I don't know. I mean, Unity
That was
here,
awesome.
there's, you know, an honorarium. So anyway, I'm going to speak at Unity. I haven't set up a date yet, but so that was amazing. It was an amazing night.
Yeah. Look, think about that. So not at your
That's
best
awesome.
and still get invited to speak.
At my worst, Chris, not my best, not even mediocre. It was like bad. It was bad.
Maybe you're bad, maybe not as bad as some other people's bad. What I would say is, and also that Vanessa and I, there's at least 2, if not 3 groups that approached us on speaking more because of that event as well.
Mm.
Now,
I was wondering if maybe it was Michael Jackson bad.
Mine was not Michael Jackson bad.
Nice play with the voice. I think we should jump into this. Let's go into, actually, let's talk about the 2 things that Jackie talked about a little bit. Oz.
Well, actually, it wasn't even ahs and ums because I didn't have any ums in my whole speech, which was amazing. But the thing that they mentioned is, well, it was with the ah counter, was that I had 4 sentences that started with and or so. And when I was, when I was getting the cuts from my for my speaker reel, and this is the first retreat speech I gave, almost every sentence started with an and or a so. And I was horrified because I thought I did such a good job. But that is something that I would like to work on, because I often start sentences with and, especially, and so some of the time. That and the other thing, the moving intentionally on the stage, on the podium.
Let's play with it. And so and ah are just habits. And sometimes they're nervous habits. They're also us not willing to have moments of silence.
Mm.
We fill it in. It's one of the things we do when we're thinking out loud. What do I want to say next? And you found out because you watched your video.
Mm-hmm.
That's the key to watching video. If you want to get better at this, almost every sports team, I think every professional sports team's videos, their practices and their performances, and breaks down what they did right and what they did wrong. It is easy to get in the habit of that, noticing it and paying attention to it, but not letting it get in your way of speaking. There are many successful speakers. If you look at Barack Obama's speeches, there was a lot of ums and ands and so's. Maybe not so's, but he had those in there. And sometimes actually can make you feel more real and human to have those in your speeches instead of too perfect. What I would say is if you pay attention and slow down a little bit, you can notice that. You can also speed up. When you know your story, you don't need to say and as much and go, how can I drop this? And I did this, and I did that, and I did this. Just look to, oh, I don't need that and. I did this. I thought about this next. It was awesome. However you work it to do it, just use it as feedback and notice it. And as you notice it in a gentle way for yourself, it can eventually, those things can eventually lower and drop. I don't make them bad in any way, because you don't want to be giving a speech to a professional audience or another audience, and all of a sudden you realize, oh, geez, I've said so 5 times already, where I just ended the last 3 paragraphs and then start beating yourself up about that. Just put a mental.
Combine the paragraphs using and.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other comments on and so for anyone else?
I've experimented with taking out, when I'm writing, all the ands and so's and just having short declarative sentences. I've been breaking up my sentences and not having, 2 sentences connected by and. I've been making much more declarative sentences stand alone. And I think that it really presents better because it gives you an opportunity to pause and also to underscore the intent of what you're saying. That's how I work it.
Very nice. Anyone else?
Writing's easy for me because I was a journalism major. It's the speaking.
It's just a habit, Jackie, right now.
Okay.
I notice I have it. I still have that probably more than I'd like in the talks I'm giving. There's many I go without doing it at all. And then I realize, oh, I used 7 so's in a row or whatever there, or I anded that. I started another thing with an and that wasn't a necessary and. It's just putting some attention to that. And I do think it makes us a better speaker when we drop more of that. Now let's talk about moving.
I'm going to say amen to that, Chris.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just that when I write poetry, I use a lot of and to make a point. It's a stylistic thing when I write poetry. In speaking, to Chris's point, it takes a little bit of practice, just a little bit of practice, to pause rather than say and or so or If you pause, your talk ends up sounding a little bit more intentional rather than kind of the run-on. So if you, and I don't have a problem with so if it's a little bit, I do say it.
Right.
But just being comfortable pausing and taking a moment before you continue to the next sentence where you want to take out and.
Right.
Yeah. And like I said last time, I think maybe not last time, but we did an exercise in improv where you just stared in someone's eyes and you started the lesson as soon as someone had something come to them. And there I go. Some people had the need to go right away. They couldn't have a moment of silence. They couldn't let it sit. And I started to have a lot of fun just being in that silence, looking at someone. The more comfortable you can get in that silence, the more powerful it's going to be. And I noticed as I said that, just said I noticed, there was multiple times, even when I didn't insert it, I wanted to put a so and whatever. So that's in I can work on that as well.
It was interesting. Oh, I just want to say really quick. It was interesting. I was listening to that improv podcast that I had mentioned, and I started noticing both of the gentlemen, the interviewer and the interviewee, were saying like a ton. I thought, what? You guys are professional improv people, way high in the improv world, and you're saying like all the time. It surprised me, and it has made me pay attention to that in other people. Maybe that's a bad thing. I don't know.
Watch some of
I've heard the use of like, and that is one word that bugs me. If I do it, I listen to someone speaking like that where it's an overuse. That is the only area where I think it's kind of obnoxious. You can say and or so all day. I don't really care, but like definitely takes the place of thoughtfulness and pausing and being deliberate. So I share that.
I agree.
It's just a bad habit. It's just a bad habit, and Toastmasters, one of the negative things I think it did for me at first is it got me really triggered on all those words. Then I couldn't enjoy someone's talk. I couldn't take the essence out of it. It did that for me. Let's go to Patricia and then Annie, quick. You had something.
I'm just going to share an observation. I go to a lot of lectures here in Santa Barbara, and a lot of different people that are professional speakers and stuff. I mean, they haven't gone to Toastmasters and they haven't learned to speak, the way we're learning to speak, but they're people that are on circuit with their books and stuff. And I'm just amazed.
Did Patricia you're amazed at what, Patricia?
What did you say?
Yeah, it froze for me. You were amazed?
Yeah, the signal's been really choppy.
Oh, my signal's been choppy. Sorry.
Not you. It's. I think it's just there's probably I don't know. It's the video.
I have an internet connection. So what did you not hear?
I heard amazed and then nothing.
I was amazed that all of these professional people, not necessarily speakers, but people that have written amazing books and physicists and, all kinds of wonderful people like that. And they're not good speakers. In that there's a lot of ums and ahs, knows and so's. And
many are not. And you don't actually have to be a good speaker to be a professional speaker if you have an incredible expertise on a subject.
Right. Yeah.
That's why I would look at growing your expertise in something. And one of the ways you can grow your expertise is interview other experts. Annie, and then Bobby.
Done a lot of that.
I just want to say that if you're trying to put two ideas together, there's nothing wrong with saying and I think you get too caught up in it sometimes.
Sure. I agree with you, Annie. When you're focused on the word and, all of a sudden you go, those two could belong together. But many times we're actually starting a whole new sentence with and I've done it even on this call.
Yes.
Bobby.
I was just going to offer, Chris, that yes, you can be an absolute expert on your topic. And I think that I listen to physicians speak on a regular basis who are renowned experts in their field. I can tell you there's a profound difference between the ones who have taken the time to be able to express themselves eloquently versus those who are just throwing their information together and connecting it in any way that seems to fit for them with the likes and the ands and the so's and the ums. And sometimes it's not just one, it's 3 or 4 or 5 in a row, right? It's like, and really the actual point that's really important here is, when you look at this from the perspective of, I swear it's just like that. And then you have these others, that they present their information and you are spellbound, even though you really don't care about what they're talking about, because they're expressing themselves so well. They have great pacing. Their tone is up and down. It flows. That you don't feel like you're being lectured to. So it speaks a lot to what we can do with both, I think, our vocal variety, our volume, our pacing, all of those things. And then facial expressions as well, which, Chris, I know is something you absolutely love. I will tell you, the better speakers are more animated. They just are. Yeah. And you can tell, not just me, you can tell by looking at the audience and how engaged they are. When I get one of these other speakers on the stage where you can tell people are like checking out, they literally are. They're checking out. You see them, they're on their phones, they're on their computers, they're everywhere but on the stage. And then you get one of these other speakers I was just talking about, and everybody is fully engaged in the message they have to share.
Absolutely. You triggered me with another great exercise, I think, Bobby. Let's everyone go around and do a version of what Bobby just did with the ands, ums, and so's, and really put them into a sentence. I feel maybe, I don't know if you really understand what I'm saying. It's when you get, when you grab it from this side and you put it together, and it feels like you need to, make it fit, and it's not quite going together. You're not feeling it, and you must know how that feels. Okay, we're all gonna play with our version of that.
So painful.
So, who would like to go next?
In this next section, I would. It's like, for instance, when you you like, if you had the that thing, the passage where that.
That's taken it to a level where it became funny. I would say bonus points then if you put in like and other things like Like you know. Like you know. Oh, who's next?
I'll try it.
Okay, Annie.
You know, when I think about, well, when I wake up in the morning and I start thinking, like, what am I gonna do about this today? I just want to tell you that I need more time to get my idea across. When I think about my speaker journey, I just don't know what to do next.
Very nice. All right, Patricia.
Well,
Good start.
I was just thinking the other day that, you know what I mean? If I say that, I was at this store and I looked in the window and I was so flabbergasted what I saw, because it was like, you know what I mean? It was like unbelievable. It was just, you know.
Vanessa, would you like to add something?
Yeah, like we were totally giving this talk the other day, and we had like 100 people, and you know what I mean? Like it's like a really big group, and we were just like seriously super happy, and like I really don't know what to say, because it was really one of those things, you know, like when you're really happy about something, and it was just that kind of feeling, you know.
Nice addition. I got the words. I don't know what to say if you do that as a speaker. I don't really know what to say here. What if you do it in a way that's slightly uncomfortable? You're going to really make your audience uncomfortable. Oh my gosh! Please know what to say.
I will tell you guys that I've listened to some of these pundits on the news. You know, sometimes I don't really watch the news that much, but sometimes I'll listen. And when you read what they're saying, it sounds like junk. Or you read some of these, you know, high-minded political folks, and they're talking in circles, and it's so bizarre to look at like a transcript of these highly intelligent people talking. You go, what the heck?
Are you really that intelligent?
They're doing a lot of what we're doing for fun. It sounds obnoxious.
It can, but I don't want you to be hard on yourself when you do it in your journey. Part of this exercise is to play with it, just make fun of it, notice it, look to let more of it go. Maybe take moments where you're conscious of it and playing with it, and then let it go and go from there, and be present. And pause and breathe. Those things will help you say less of them. Let's play with moving with purpose. Jackie, was there anything specific you wanted to talk about around that?
One of the comments that I got was that I wasn't moving intentionally. And I know that's something that I have gotten as a comment before from Tiamo and some of the other coaches. And I don't know if it's a blocking thing, that I need to think about moving at a specific point, but I almost feel like it might be related to my enthusiasm when I'm speaking.
It can be kind of all those different things, but you hit on something I think we'll play with as well, blocking. If you want to remember a speech, block where you're going to use it on the stage. You're going to talk about this certain thing on this part of the stage. Not that maybe set this up here.
You mean like, do you mean like segment the stage, Chris? You mean like you're going to talk about this point over here, and then you're going to, oh, okay. Okay, I get it.
Sorry, I should have explained more about blocking. So in acting, blocking is when you figure out where you're going to be during a specific line, or when you have a monologue or whatever. That's the blocking of the whole stage. and you write down in your script what the blocking is and you memorize it. So if you were supposed to come upstage during a certain part and you didn't, then after the run through or sometimes during, the director or the stage manager will say, oh, you should have been upstage at that part. That was your blocking. You forgot your blocking. That kind of a thing.
You can totally use it. And part of that also is we write from left to right.
Mm-hmm.
So my future would be out here, but this is really your past, correct? As you're looking at me. So if I want to go into my past, I'm going, when I was little, I felt alive and it was so much fun. And then I grew up and became kind of serious about stuff. But when I was little, it was great. And that you're creating an energy in this spot too.
Mm-hmm.
And you can go over here, you know, I don't even want to tell you how bad that was. And you can go back and forth and move close to the front of the stage. There's the power position on the stage that you want to be in. But moving with purpose, if you want to go over there, it's go, oh my gosh, I couldn't believe what I learned when I was a little kid. And then you go to that spot and play with that spot and you create emotions in that spot. But you guys all have an incredible future ahead of you that you're just going to go and it's going to be amazing and it's going to keep going up and pause for a second, but then it's going to go up again, then it's going to pause and go up again. It's moving with a reason. Find a reason to go over here. Find a reason to go over there. Throw something over there. Oh my gosh, I got to go catch it. And you can do that with yourself too. You can juggle without having balls. So
Can I add something in here?
Yes.
So Chris has done some extensive work on stage, on moving on stage. I would say if you haven't had the chance to do that kind of work, then the key, like from my perspective, the key to movement on stage is to, in your own home, in your own, when you're practicing, is you over exaggerate everything you're doing as a way to get your body comfortable with doing it, because we're not used to being physically expressive necessarily, unless you're a performer, right? But even still, when you're talking, your body you kind of think in a more structured way. So to match your tone and your words and your message with your movement definitely requires practice. And I've found that the more I exaggerate things in my own practice, it starts to feel more natural. So I may not be so exaggerated on stage. I am very animated and exaggerated, but if that's just not you, then just practice on your own, being ridiculous, having fun, telling a story to a bunch of little kids, and how would you move your face and how would you move, and then your body will start to like have that muscle memory that it's okay and safe to move on stage. It's just exaggeration for me has always been really helpful in finding the middle ground, you know, where I would actually be like that on stage.
Yeah, I think exaggerating can be really powerful for you, whatever you want to learn. In speaking, exaggerate using vocal variety, exaggerate whatever it is. See if you can go too far, because sometimes too far is what people love. It's like we did with the children's stories. Let's just spend a little bit of time on this going around. Do some movement.
I feel like
this. Go ahead. Pluck something from air. I want you all to do that. Pluck something from thin air.
Okay.
Yeah, and maintain its size. So if you pluck something that's like this, don't all of a sudden go like this. Maintain that reality. If you pluck that little tiny thing, okay, now I'm going to throw a ball to Annie. Get ready. Now you tell who you're going to throw it to.
I'm going to throw it to Patricia.
Where you throwing it to, Patricia?
I'm going to throw it to Bobby.
Well, that took a while to get to Bobby.
Bobby.
Bobby, who are you throwing it to?
I don't know why Jackie didn't catch that.
I didn't hear anything.
And wait, throw it to Jackie again.
I threw it right to her. I'm telling you, I did. I threw it right to her. Look, I caught it. I pulled it out of my mitt and I threw it right to her.
It was floating right here.
It was in slow. You can change the speed of things. Catch them in slow motion. Throw it, Jackie.
Jack-
Throw it to Vanessa and let's see how she handles it.
Jackie, it's a baseball, not a softball. I'm sorry.
Sorry,
Jackie's-
Vanessa. Vanessa, here you go. I'm throwing it to you. Did you catch it?
Whoa. Yeah, wow. Jackie, that's gorgeous.
Right?
Sparkly.
There you go. Even on the phone, you can catch it. Who wants to do a move? Who wants to bring out a move they would like to add in their speech? Just do some move. Move with purpose.
Come on, Jackie Grabio.
If you have a glass, you can hold your glass and then remove it.
Oh, Patricia's showing us how to put your boot on.
And actually, how Patricia's putting her boot on is a powerful way to put your boot on.
That's the way I usually take it off.
That, again, exaggeration funny, putting on it in a big way where they can really see, oh my gosh, like if you did it subtly, what is Patricia doing with her hands down there versus just big grabbing it, putting it on that way.
I did it purposely.
Yeah.
No,
I you know what I was just thinking just now is that I was envisioning you putting your big girl boots on.
Me?
so just putting on your boots like that and actually getting down on the ground or the stage, leaning back and putting your boots on, in some cases will generate a big laugh.
Just make sure you're not wearing a skirt.
Yes.
You might get a bigger
Good
laugh.
point.
That might generate a little more than laughter.
entirely.
Let's go back to this. If you have a water bottle or something, just notice how you hold it, remove it, see if you can bring that in there. And even splash your audience with it.
I had a lot of fun in my speech at the contest because I had a lot of, dramatic moments in the dressing room and nothing but my flowered undies with the three-way mirror. And it was fun. It was fun. I was able to I practiced acting in front of the mirror around it. And I usually don't do my speeches in front of a mirror, but I'm starting to do that now.
I like it. Some other people say don't do it. Yes, Annie?
I have a question because if I want to illustrate planting seeds during the phase that I was on my farm, would it look totally ridiculous for me not to kneel on the ground and do it? Because there might be some stages on which I might not be wearing pants at that particular speech. So this is how I would do it if I'm not going to kneel on the ground.
Can't see where your hands are at the bottom.
Yeah.
Okay, too far down. Yeah.
You got it.
Okay.
Well, for us to give you any feedback, you have to demonstrate on camera.
Okay, gotcha. All right. So.
Look at Bobby, what he's doing right now.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. Thank you. That's good feedback. And then I would cover the ground up.
Yeah. So you can put that in the air.
Yeah.
Anyone else have a movement with purpose?
Yeah.
Can I
Yeah.
ask one for Chris? One thing I feel like is I am good at exaggerating movements to a certain extent. I could get better, but my problem is that I move too much. My enthusiasm in my speech compels me to move back and forth because I want to connect with my audience. Does that make sense? I'm not sure if you saw that in the video that I sent you.
I didn't think you overly, I thought you did a little, maybe too much, but it's like one person brought up this example of walking. Some people do this. Tell me how you feel.
I'm getting dizzy.
It's like it reminds me of a caged jaguar that's looking at you inside the cage and you're outside going,
I think that'd be good. I think you could do that in your speech.
you can use that with a purpose too, to bring that in it.
Yeah.
Was I doing that?
As an example, if you want to, if it's a purpose to go, what it feels like to do this, over exaggerate it. With your speech, when you're moving, notice you can catch yourself. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I can't stop moving. Have you ever had that feeling? But find a place, maybe with some meditation, that you can be powerfully centered.
Hmm.
And then leave that center to go say something else or throw something across or whatever it is, but then come back to that center to deliver again and then move from that center for various reasons. So one of the things you can say is, I leave this center when I have a purpose. I don't just leave it for, you know, like how when people think, I don't really think, but when people think, you know, noticing those things and just being kind with yourself with them can make a difference. Yes, Bobby.
I have a thought that might be helpful, Jackie, because it sounds like you're thinking about how you can move with purpose and intention. And whether we're speaking to 1 or 1,000, you can only ever be speaking to one person at a time if you really want to be connected with the audience. So maybe when you're moving across the stage, you're identifying who it is that's 3 paces over that you want to connect with. And that's the person that you're identifying with. You express what you want to express there. And before you move back to center or to the next spot, you've identified who the next person is that you're going to connect with. And that might allow you to control your pacing with purpose and intention, because you know that you're making a deep and bonded connection with that person, whether they realize it or not.
That's a good addition, Bobby, because
I like that.
You're typically, when you're going to move, you're not going to move like stare right in their eyes and go right to them and go, oh, you next. And then you, you, oh, and you especially. Stay with them a little longer with your eye contact, and then notice someone else and move there with the eye contact. If you slow it down,
in other words, let your, they say we go where our eyes go, right? Is what I'm. So I was thinking about the race car analogy. Somebody was talking about why guys end up crashing into the wall, and they crash into the wall because that's where they look.
Right.
Race car drivers aren't supposed to look at the wall, right? They look at the wall, and as soon as they do, that's where the car goes. So if you think about your eyes, right, your eyes will carry you to where you want to go on the stage if you're doing it intentionally and not trying to crash into the wall.
Yeah, I've heard that too. Great car drivers do that.
yes, that's very true. You go where race car drivers do go where their eyes go. What I would encourage you again with speaking is a lot of times, and you noticed when we at the retreats, people would go up or down.
Me.
Yeah. And they weren't connected to the audience.
Yeah, I did that.
If you really look to connect with your audience, share portions that are directly for them. one person intentionally. Now, what if you had a group of 20 people and you stared at one person the whole time?
Creepy.
They might think we're creepy.
I think we say like maximum 3 to 7 seconds maximum with one person. After that, again, even 7 would seem a long time for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Just
Or
notice.
delivering one sentence to one person would probably be about that same time frame, most likely.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that I did during my speeches, when I talked about coming up to that porch to deliver that paper, I stepped up in front of one particular audience member, and I was probably 2 feet from her. And that just felt natural to be there at that moment. And then I think I may have backed up after I realized the bite or looked down or something, but that was something that felt intentional, that felt good. That's kind of an example of what you're talking about. So that helps me.
We can all just notice what you do intentionally, and you don't have to use it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You can be still, you don't have to have a movement. You can describe it versus moving there.
Mm-hmm.
Point, all is different. Now this, sometimes pointing at some people don't like this, but going like this with an open hand turned up isn't as putting on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
And I still notice myself sometimes going, you, if you want to make that point, you, everyone give me a you. You
better stop right now.
You notice yourself. Give me I want to hear the real you. I want to feel the blame right now. You. Now give me
You.
Yeah.
You.
Did you scare your cat?
Now I would like to invite you. Invite us. You are invited.
You are invited to my concert.
Yeah.
You.
You are invited to pet my kitty.
All right, Vanessa, point. All right.
I'm getting there. I had it. If you saw me doing it, it's funnier.
It would have been. It would have been.
Basically, I'm looking at you, and I'm pointing my finger, and I got a sparkle in my right side of my tooth, and I'm just like, you.
I like the sparkle on the right side of it too. Going, you. Vanessa just pointed without being on camera.
Bam.
Yeah.
Just
Right.
saying.
I do this again. I got to start right away with the exercises.
I'm going to have to go because I got to take little Tyrion to get his staples out.
Oh, okay. Good luck, Tyrion.
Thank you.
For those of you who can stay a little bit,
Bye.
who wants to share a 2-minute story?
Okay, great.
Bobby's got a Star Trek version. Is that
No.
Who's got a 2-minute story? Now 2 minutes. I'm going to time you on this one. Who's got a 2-minute or less story they'd like to share?
I'll do my story about Chibettes.
Okay. 2 minutes. I'm going to time it. So you only have 2 minutes. And I'm going to cut you off.
Okay. When I was 7 years old, I was haunted by negative thoughts about my body. I put on weight. And my fearful thoughts actually created the fact. I was a chubby girl. Then one day my mom took me shopping. I love to go shopping with my mom. We always had fun. But today I had this kind of foreboding feeling in my belly. And as we walked around a corner, I saw a store I'd never seen before. Chibettes, the sign blatantly declared. I felt sick. We were greeted at the door by an overweight matronly woman who smiled with double chin and ruby red lips. Hello, my name is Mrs. Russo, she claimed. Welcome to Chibettes. I did not feel welcome. The dressing room had glaring lights and a 3-way mirror that covered the whole room. I was embarrassed to see myself standing, looking at myself from all angles, standing there in nothing but my flowered undies. But I felt I had no choice. I was everywhere I looked, trapped by my own negative reflections. My eyes zeroed in immediately on the part of my body that I hated the most, my belly. Oh, I despised my belly. I didn't mind the extra fat on the other parts of my body, but my belly was the worst, even worse than my plump, dimpled inner thighs. My mom was busily pulling things on and off my body, determined to find something that would look good. Nothing looked good. I just wanted out of there. She finally settled on a blue corduroy jumper and a white blouse with blue checkers. And she also bought a couple of pairs of pants. You know, the pants with the elastic waistbands? Ugh, to this day, I hate elastic waistbands.
Nicely done.
Nicely done, Patricia. I love that.
I forgot a very fun part about the mannequins in the window, but
Mhm.
Even forgetting that part, that was great description, very interestingly told. I enjoyed it. How many times have you told that story now?
Gosh. Oh, you mean including in front of the mirror?
Yeah.
Oh, about 15, 20 times.
Yeah. Keep stories evolve. Keep telling it. You get to add it. You get to be more comfortable with it. You get to be animated. When you are in your head thinking about your story, what do I tell next? It stops you from being fully with the audience and bringing more of yourself to it.
You know, I developed a distinction between memorizing and learning. There's a
Okay.
difference. You know, when you memorize, it's just and then you forget something, you forget it, you know. But when you're learning it and really learning it so that you know what you want to say and you know how you want to act around it, I found it was a lot easier to remember everything
Yes,
that I wanted to say and gave me direction without memorizing.
absolutely.
I had
Well
fun.
said.
The same thing with Confessions when I did it in San Diego, because I was moving around and
Bring that, I think all of us could bring that to what we do. Annie, do you have one you wanted to do?
Yeah, I have a story.
Okay, 2 minutes.
Okay. When we were children, our father rarely punished us physically. He was a wonderful man, and usually we would have to write 50 times, I must not blah, blah, blah. At one point, I think I was about 6 years old, and I had done something that he was going to do something either with a brush or a belt. He was going to swat me. And I was determined to not let that happen. We were in the breakfast room, and there's a big table there, and I was running around the table trying to avoid him, and he was chasing me, and I was running, and I was getting out of breath, and he was about to, I knew that I was trapped, and he was going to catch me very quickly. So I thought, I've got nothing to lose. I don't think I was even thinking, but I turned around right when he would have grabbed me in another half a turn around the table, and I said with all the strength and loathing I could muster, "Get away from me, you icky thing." And it stopped him in his tracks. He looked like an ugly, ugly crab chasing me around, and that's just what I expressed. And he stopped, and he realized how ugly the whole thing was, and he just laughed and walked away.
That's a great story, Annie. Keep that story. Do you have that in your story bank?
That is today was the first time I added that to my story bank.
Okay. Keep that one in there. I love it.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Who's next?
Are these stories that you guys, I mean, clearly it sounds like you guys have practiced. I don't know that I have a practice story. I could tell one.
Tell us.
That
You got
fine.
2 minutes. You don't need to practice it.
Okay. So when I was 10 years old, I lived in upstate New York in a place called Lake Huntington. And it was a beautiful, beautiful property with a lake and mountains and this gorgeous, gorgeous forest. And in the back of our ashram, we had a little creek. And I used to map out the grounds just so I could understand where I was. I didn't really know where in New York we were, but I kind of mapped out like where our ashram was. And I could tell where the neighbors were, and I knew where the police station was if I went right down the main road or left. And, sorry, dogs are barking. And in my ashram was like a boarding school, so you can imagine we got into a lot of trouble. Well, around 10 is when I started becoming very vocal and very annoyed with my teachers. And one day I organized a group of girls to run away. We had had enough. So we decided to run away. So our dinner consisted of popcorn, an apple, and hot milk. We knew it wouldn't be enough to sustain us if we, ran away. We didn't know how long it would take if we were walking to get to a police station and tell them that we didn't want to be where we were anymore. So we planned to save our breakfast, which was some rice, and then we saved our dinner that night, and then we packed a pair of socks and a pair of underwear. And we all put our little baggies of rice and popcorn, apple, underwear, and socks in our little cases, and we proceeded to go to sleep. Now, I had a hand-drawn map of how to walk out of our room where we all slept, down the hall, down the fire escape, down into the bottom of the building, and across the little creek. Now, once we got across the creek, we didn't really know exactly how to get out of there, but I drew a map of just go up the hill, no big deal. So we're waking up. We will go to bed around 7 p.m. And I said everyone I'd tap on the floor. And right around 7:30, 7:45, we thought the grown-ups were asleep. We were very little. And we all got up and we grabbed our bags and we grabbed our jackets and we tiptoed out of our room. And we start walking down the hallway towards our freedom. And all of a sudden, I hear my name being called. Radhe, what are you doing? And all 6 of us girls scrambled back to our room, jumped in our sleeping bags, and zipped them up as tight as we could, because we knew the next morning we were going to have to face them, and that meant we were all going to get in trouble. Little did I know that I would end up getting kicked out of school because of my little escapade.
Wow.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing that.
Wow.
Your escapade. That is a great story, and I'd play with that even more and more.
Yeah, I've never actually told it. I've written it, but I've never actually told it.
Yeah, keep telling it. Bobby, what do you got?
Hello?
Broccoli. Broccoli. That's what I've got. Broccoli. What do you think when I say the word broccoli? Well, when I was a little boy, broccoli was on my plate. I was at the table doing my normal routine, because as a small boy, I wasn't necessarily really good at eating everything on my plate. My mother's solution to this challenge was that I would eat in a clockwise fashion on my plate. One bite from this pile, one bite from this pile, one bite from this pile, and one bite from this pile, depending upon how many items were on my plate. And as I took a bite of the meatloaf, which I really enjoyed, it was time to move the broccoli. And I looked left and I looked right, and my parents and my sister were already done and gone from the table, which was a pretty normal happening at mealtime. I wasn't the fastest eater. Because in my mind, I had created this idea that if I ate really slow, everybody would get tired, they would leave the table, and then when it came time for me to eat the broccoli, I might be able to sneak up from the table and put it in the garbage where I actually thought it belonged. Now, what I didn't know is my mom had caught on to this. And although she wasn't in the room, she was waiting for me to get to that point. And the next thing I know, as I was getting ready to dump my plate into the garbage, I heard the words. Now, these words were rarely used together, but when they were, I knew absolutely, positively that I was in trouble. And the words were, "Robert Charles, what do you think you're doing?" And I said, "Mom, I'm just getting rid of the broccoli." That's it.
Vic, it's a great story because I think a lot of kids, human beings, can relate to not wanting to eat something as a kid and then being called out on it. And I love your clever strategy to attempt to avoid it.
My mother used to do that with, my brothers used to do that with spinach. They hated spinach. My mother overcooked spinach. It looked like a black lump on the plate, you know. And I would eat things that weren't my favorite first so I could get them out of the way and then go. And my brothers would just kind of slide their spinach onto my plate.
Those are both stories. Patricia, grab that one. Bobby, for sure use that one.
Can I do a really quick 30-second story?
Yes.
Dessert was a rare occurrence in our house. It was either a Jane Parker spice bar from A&P, or maybe chocolate pudding. So one night, we had our chocolate pudding dished out, and everybody was trying to make it last as long as possible. I don't remember why, but my dad saw all this going on at the head of the table, and he said, "Last one to finish their pudding gets to eat up everybody else's." And of course, some of us didn't even get it, but a couple of us laughed, you know, right away and finished our pudding.
That's good. And I'll tell a very quick story. Yes, Bobby.
I just remembered something. Now, he's not the most popular guy these days, but you guys probably are old enough to remember the pudding commercials with a name that shall not be said. Just remember the pudding commercials, right? Think about how animated we could get with our pudding, or anything else for that matter, right? Why did people love those commercials? They didn't love the commercials because they were talking about pudding. They loved the commercials because of what was happening, right? I just had this aha moment when you're talking about dessert and you said pudding, and I'm like, it took me right back to that time, right? So we all have these triggers in our heads, but it made me think about what could I do with pudding or anything else for that matter. So anyway, it just, you know, the animation of that commercial reminds me that it's okay to have fun.
Yes. Let's touch on something in just a minute with that. I'll tell a very fast story and we'll go to that. When I was probably 6 or 7 years old, we were at the lake house in northern Minnesota. And at the time I lived in Grand Forks, North Dakota. So we drive 3 hours and we get to the lake, and you go down this gravel driveway and you get excited because you could hear the rocks underneath the car's tires. And you went down around the corner, and then you could see the lake and the cabin and the outhouse. That's another story. But this particular day, we were going to go to town, and I love to go to town with my dad because he wasn't as serious when we went to town. I got in the big Ford truck before him, and he had to go run back in the house to do something else. And I was bored just sitting there, and all of a sudden I pushed in the lighter thing, those old lighter things that you push in, and I pushed it in, and all of a sudden it popped out, and I pulled it out, and you could see the glowing orange coils there. And for some reason, I go, wonder, and I touched it to the steering wheel. And all of a sudden, the steering wheel blistered up. Oops. And I started to freak out. I put it back in, and I tried to rub it out, and it wouldn't, it was stuck, this blister, and I go, no, because I knew my dad would do it. And I was so scared in that moment. I moved over to the passenger seat. And what do I do? What do I do? I got to tell him. I can't tell him. I don't want to tell him. He came in the car. He sat down. He didn't notice that at first. And we drove a while. And then as we were driving back to town, he goes, "What happened to the steering wheel?" and I said, "I don't know."
I don't know.
And he owned that car, that Ford pickup truck, for another 7 years at least. And I got to look at my lie every day. And it's one of the reasons I don't like to lie because of how horrific it felt to live with that every single day.
He never knew?
Eventually, I think he knew. He might have even known that day. But it was a horrible experience for me in terms of lying. Made me never want to lie again.
Good.
Yeah. Let's do this. So Bobby brought up something about exaggeration in the pudding commercial. Let's find a line that we can exaggerate together and play with different exaggerations of it. Anyone have an idea of a line that we can use to exaggerate and play with? Or I'll give you one. I love broccoli. Or maybe a little, I love broccoli covered in butter. Yeah. So I'll give you my first one. I love broccoli covered in butter.
I love broccoli and cauliflower with just smothered with cheese.
I love broccoli that's cooked with fresh garlic and olive oil. Yum.
Vanessa, you got something?
I love broccoli. My favorite is with butter and lemon.
Butter and lemon. All right, Bobby, I know this is going to be tough for you.
I love broccoli, particularly as it slides off my plate into the trash can.
Nicely done. Nicely done.
I love that I'm on a call with a bunch of rule breakers like you. I gave you the line and everyone turned it into something different. So thank you for doing that. And thank you for doing it in the ways.
Can I add one more?
Yes.
My dog loves broccoli. Straight up.
I'll add to that. Oliver loves broccoli as long as it's dipped in butter or olive oil or with salmon juice. Patricia, I really like the way you told that, the way the animation you brought into that. Bobby's surprising flip down of the plate. Annie, I could feel the gooey cheese. Keep playing with things like that. Who's got another line we can exaggerate? I can pluck them from thin air for me. I know you can too.
I couldn't possibly come up with anything for us to play with.
I couldn't possibly come up with anything for us to play with.
I couldn't possibly, not in a million years, I couldn't possibly. find that.
Not in a million. Very well done.
Million years.
Million years. Million.
I love that.
Actually, everyone do that together. Vanessa, you're gonna, a million years. A million. A million. A million years.
A million years.
A million years. Notice when you're
million.
A million years. You guys can, when we do it and you like it, do it too. Copy it. Give your own version of it. A million years. All right, Annie.
I couldn't possibly come up with one more word right now. I'm starving.
Used in the right point in a story that has us. Vanessa, what do you got?
I couldn't possibly come up with anything right now. I'm just tap dry. I'm serious. I got nothing.
Yeah. All right, who's got another one they want to pluck?
Know your stuff.
Know your stuff.
Know your stuff.
Know your stuff.
Vanessa.
Know your stuff. Okay?
I like it. I like it. Okay.
Okay.
Who's going to pluck something else?
Lasagna. Mwah! Is so yummy.
Lasagna. I love it.
Lasagna. Ooh, all that cheese and meat. It's so delicious.
You sound very witchy there.
Yes, I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking,
I would go from loving lasagna
Lasagna
there to be afraid to eat that lasagna.
The lasagna witch. I like it.
Yeah. Go, Vanessa.
Sorry, say what the word was again.
Lasagna, I love it.
Oh, lasagna. I love it.
I love it. Bobby.
lasagna. It brings back these memories. A plate, oval, baked to absolute perfection, ready and waiting. Bliss, lasagna.
I like that.
Anyone want to pluck another line?
No.
All right. Any thoughts in terms of wrapping up here? Anything you would like to share as we wrap this up?
I don't know, but I've been told this here group is good as gold.
Gold.
I don't know, but I heard rumors. Vanessa's not on the phone because she's wearing bloomers.
Yeah, I've heard those rumors too.
In my speaker journey, because as we had to have someone open and close the polls, and I happened to mention on the first day that I was a musician, we had like nobody coming in for hours, you know, and then one or two people would stick their head in and go, I'm just checking it out, you know, and then we'd all be sitting there for more hours, you know, so we told each other our life stories. And then someone said, well, why don't you sing the polls open? So the next day I brought my ukulele and I started singing like, the polls are open. And I'd go out in the hall and strum it. And pretty soon they were going, well, now you got to do it even more, you know, you got to top that tomorrow. So I started making up little things like, you gotta get up, you gotta get up, you gotta get up this morning, you gotta get up and come and vote. The polls are open all day, you know, and stuff like that. And then I close, polls are closed today, no more voting here. Merrily, 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 let's go grab a beer and stuff like that.
Annie, that's awesome. And notice the power of what, did people like it when you sang it open and closed? They loved it. And Bobby, I would also encourage you to play with that, I don't know what I've been told, and find some rhyme that you relate to whatever room you're in. That'd be part of your calling card of what you do.
I also
The
want to
polls
share
are open, but now they're closed. You missed the boat and it's over for you.
What was the last line?
another
I just
observation.
made it up.
Okay.
Gotta run, guys. I have a client call.
Okay.
Okay,
All
Thanks,
right.
Vanessa. Thanks
See you
for
later.
playing.
thank you. Can I share one more observation?
Yes, you can.
I'm going to go to a storytelling festival in San Diego this Saturday, and there's going to be an open mic. And I love storytelling open mics because I observed what happened here, and it happens all the time. Somebody gets up and tells a story, and then somebody recalls something that happened to them because of the story that that person told. And
Yeah.
I have recalled stories in that method that, like, for instance, getting lost in my own backwoods after somebody telling about getting lost in caves. And that's what was going on here, and that's what I love about storytelling open mics.
Is the storytelling open mic in San Diego at the Encinitas Library?
Yeah.
Okay. Bobby.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
Whatever you do with your storytelling, you have to bring some singing vocal into it, because the melodic nature of your voice draws you in. Like when you were doing what I wanted to come in. We were inviting me in. So whatever you do, bring some of that into, and even if you have to finish with, and most recently, I remember it was at the poll booth, we were just joking and like we were trying to kill time, and it's like, well, you should open and close the polls, and here's how I open it and here's how I closed it, whatever. I mean, but do something, do some kind of a vocal. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Bobby, for saying that, which reinforced what I've been saying for a long time, Annie. And what I would encourage you also is what Bobby said, the inviting in aspect of it. If you can sing a song that has a simple chorus that you can invite everyone in to sing it with you, and that's the same thing, Bobby. I would find your thing that you come up with. If you like it, then get the whole audience to repeat it with you.
I have a holler back. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We could do it right now real quick to close this out if you want.
Let's do it.
Okay. Ready?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All you guys got to do is holler back whatever I do.
Okay.
This is a little bit crazy, okay? This was just for fun.
All right.
Run through the woods and just like an animal.
Run through the woods and just like an animal.
Run through.
Eat raw meat and just like a cannibal.
Eat raw meat and just like a cannibal.
We eat poison rattlesnakes for lunch.
We eat poison rattlesnakes for lunch.
The speaker group is a wild bunch.
The speaker group is a wild bunch.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Gotta go, you guys.
Love you. Keep doing that. Keep playing. Keep having fun. Bobby, play with that. Annie, bring that into what you're doing. Patricia, I loved your exaggerations on the storytelling. Keep bringing that into what you do.
Okay, thank you.
We
guys.
love you,
Thank
Chris.
Chris.
Bye.
See you later, alligator.
Bye.
Bye.